LinkedIn, and it sounds like you and I have some similarities.
Yeah, for sure.
Business. So if you could just tell me, what is it that you do in your business?
I work exclusively with senior leadership teams of small, medium-sized businesses. And I help them get more clarity in their business and more control over their business. And when we do those things, those two things, it always leads to breakthrough. And so part of what I start with is, where is the breakthrough that we're looking for? And if we can kind of articulate some of those objectives, the methodology to get there is always the same. And working with them to, in a lot of ways, it's the blocking and tackling of running a business, John, that most people were never actually taught. And the ones that were, you kind of forget some of those things, those principles in the day-to-day, chaos of running a business and trying to grow a business. And so it's just, I call myself a coach. I work with them. And, sometimes when you're in the game, you can't see the things that are happening the same way a coach can from the outside looking in, so they can ask the right questions and suggest some tweaks and help them get to what they ultimately want to get out of their business.
Yeah, I'm a coach as well, so a lot of similarities. I can relate to everything you said there. So what got you into coaching?
Well, a bad prophecy, I guess. I was running a company and we brought in a coach for our business. And I had my operator, after a session with him, he looks at me and says, "You're going to do this one day." And I said, "No way, I'm never doing that." Because I was always the builder. And I took what they did for our business and then kind of applied that same methodology at some of my other businesses. So I was the serial entrepreneur, really good at the 0 to 1, creating something from nothing and getting that up and going. So I was able to take what he taught me, what he did for us as a coach, I was able to do for my other businesses. And then as some of those got to scale in the place where I didn't need to be involved anymore, I thought, you know what, I really enjoy this. And I think I could do it to help other people. And man, once I started that, John, it was like I found my place in this world. I found my superpower, because nothing helps me come more alive than being in a room with a group of senior leaders who are just dedicated to each other in their business and they want to do awesome things. It's so invigorating. On the flip side of it, it's kind of like being an improv comic on stage, and you never know when somebody's going to throw a tomato or a shoe at your face. Right. And so you've got to be on your toes for 7-8 hours at a time and be a step ahead so that you can know the next question, know the next exercise, know the next thing that we need to do in the room. And it just is super invigorating for me.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to all that. So, when we have a coach in our network who was an entrepreneur, a client of a coach, and then now and same thing, you said serial entrepreneur. He had a couple different businesses, same story as what you just said.
Yeah.
And now he is his best example of why coaching works and what's good about coaching. So interesting. So you talked about large companies as well. Like what's your demographic? Like what's a scope of business?
Yeah. So here's what I've found is here's the place where I can bring the biggest impact is those companies are typically between 25 and 75 employees. Mm-hmm. And what's unique about that is that they're usually in the transition from being a founder-led organization to being a senior leadership team-led organization. And there's so much change and breaking of habits and new ideas that have to happen in that transition. They really do need a guide to come in and help them make that transition. And that's where I enjoy helping really the founder make that transition. There's a lot of psychology that has to happen in that coaching with that founder through that transition, so that they, build the trust in the team and enough to be able to let go and trust the team to do what he had been doing, as the founder-led organization. So that's huge. Now, it's been interesting the last couple of months. latest few clients have all been bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I warn them like ahead of time, like, hey, this is what I'm really strong at. Whatever reason, they still hire me. And then I do a session, I walk out, and it's a constant reminder, John, like, it doesn't matter how big these companies are, there's always some level of dysfunction, right? You see
Right.
it. Like there's
Absolutely.
always places that you and I can come in and help and guide and coach and reflect and, just ask the right question that helps them see things a little differently. So
Do you find, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you find when you talk about those founder-led transitioning to leadership-led, is that
yeah,
intentional? Do they know that's what they're going through when you start?
sometimes
Okay.
sometimes they've tried and they're struggling, or they've tried and their team is struggling because of the dynamics.
Right.
Usually it's more symptomatic of one of two things happening. They're either frustrated because they keep dealing with the same problems over and over and over again, and so they feel very stuck, or they're experiencing super rapid growth, in which case the company is outpacing their control that they have in over the business.
Right.
So their business starts controlling them. Everything's reactive. And things are breaking because they're growing so fast. And, that founder is going crazy at that point because they absolutely can't do everything anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting you talk about, I'm going through that with one client now who he's working too many hours. He doesn't want to work all the hours, but he doesn't know how to delegate. And he has
right.
And we're working to set up the team that he can delegate, and that means they need to know what's expected of them. He needs to know that he's not going to know everything. I worked with a guy in my corporate past, and he said, "You realize when you delegate to me, I'm not going to do it the way you are going to do it, but I'm going to get it done." And that's what these owners need to realize.
100%.
If you can delegate it to somebody and they can get it done 80% as well as you can, then that's well worth, because you can coach them the other 20% to get them where you need it, or they may even
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's good enough.
Yeah, we use an acronym over and over and over. We call it, helping people drive their car. But as we delegate things as leaders, it's our job. So the CAR is an acronym. Our job is to create clarity. What is it that's expected? What are the outcomes? What are the input? Whatever. What do you have to work with? But give clarity. The second thing's autonomy. If we give clarity, we should be able to give autonomy. If we don't feel like we have the ability to give autonomy, then we probably haven't given them the clarity that they need. Right. And so then it leads to results. So if I give you the clarity of what's expected, then you have the autonomy to go do it. Then we can just have a follow-up check-in conversation around the results. And one of the reasons that most leaders struggle to hold other people accountable is because they know they have some guilt about the lack of clarity that they've actually given to this project, to this person, to the outcome. So what I challenge leaders to do when there's a lack of accountability is say, hey, look at this acronym, right? Where did it break down?
Right.
And did you, usually I didn't create the clarity that was expected.
And sometimes because they didn't know that's what they expected. Sometimes people don't know what they want. And it's okay to say, I don't know what I'm looking for here. I don't know what I need yet, but I know I need help. If you're clear on that uncertainty, that can help.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And in a healthy team where there's high levels of trust, then you can realize that you're both on a growing curve together. Right. So we're going to know more in 90 days than we do right now. And then we can tighten it up and then tighten it up and tighten it up. And that's what I was just talking with a guy, and he was saying, I've got a lot to learn, whatever. I'm like, I have a lot to learn. Like, it's not, this isn't a destination type conversation. Like, we're all on a journey, and every company's on a journey, and all the people in the leadership team are on a journey together. And so it's about progress, not perfection, right? If you're committed to the progress, then we're going to do cool things.
It's funny because I have an analogy I use about coaching, and I use the analogy of, if you're going somewhere you've never been before, in the old days, you used the map. Now you're going to use GPS, right? But a GPS doesn't help you if you've never been there before. It's heavy traffic. There's road construction. There's things that now, yes, GPS is getting better with telling you those things, but sometimes it's so good to have somebody sitting in that seat next to you that can help you, because sometimes it's coming at you too fast and there's too many variables that you couldn't pre-program to figure out what to do. You can't just read a book and go do it.
Right.
Sometimes you need somebody sitting right by your side helping to figure it out. And maybe maybe they have been there before, or maybe they haven't been there before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a lot of what we do. So
yeah, I mean, you know, I am a coach, and I have 3 coaches of my own for different aspects of my life. Right. Like,
right.
Like I want the shortcut and the cheat code of what you're talking about. You know, the guy who's an expert at the terrain that I'm trying to go down.
Mm-hmm.
I want him in the passenger seat telling me everything that he knows, because I don't want to learn it the hard way.
Right. Agree. Well, then that's what we're there for, is to help simplify. Yeah. So what's been kind of the most rewarding thing that you've found out of this? I mean, I can tell you're energized by the career choice, but
just the impact, the transformation, the human transformation of what is created through the business transformation. Probably one of the stories that I'm most proud of. I don't know when you're going to post this video, but tomorrow, one of my my client of 2+ years, when I started with them, it was, you know, $6 million revenue company, and they're announcing their sale tomorrow for $140 million. And
that's awesome.
You know,
it won't be before then.
Well, here's what's cool is, when I started with them, the CEO had somebody that he would talk about often, is this girl that did special projects for him. And before too long, we got her into the senior leadership team meetings, because it was apparent how important some of these special projects were. Well, for the last year, this woman has been their COO in this high growth, and John, she's a badass leader.
Right.
And so, like, to watch, you know, this individual contributor step into leadership and give her the tools that she needs. And she's just so hungry. Like, she asked me the best questions.
She's a sponge. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she just does it. Like, some people like know the thing to do and then forget to do it. Right.
Fearless.
Like,
right.
She just, fearless. She just does it. And now for them to like have this opportunity and you know, financial event is just really freaking cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's kind of been your biggest challenge?
Well, you know, if we're talking to anybody who's thinking about building a coaching practice, I was told this, and it was absolutely true. The first year is really, really hard, because you're entering a space and you haven't been doing this. So you don't really have a lot of credibility doing this. You don't have referrals yet, because you haven't helped anybody break through like you're promising. So the first year in building a book of business was hard. But it's been, it was kind of like pedaling up a hill for the first year, and you get to the top of that hill, and then you start to experience the downhill on the other side of that. And I think the first year, I don't know that anything else about it's hard. It's so rewarding.
I should have asked this. What is your firm name? I should have asked this at the outset. So what's your company?
Oh, that's all right. So my practice is at benjmiller.com.
Okay.
It's called the Benj Miller Collective, because it's very inclusive of all my clients that I work with. And like next week, 2 weeks in Nashville, I'm getting all of my clients together to meet each other, because they're all just such cool people, right? So it's like, you know, the CEOs, COOs of these organizations, bring them together and let them meet each other. And it's kind of like the ethos is that we're doing this thing together. And again, back to the analogy that we're all on a journey.
Yeah,
we're all helping each other else. Yep, that's it.
Yeah. So where are your clients? Country, nationwide, regional, local?
No, I'm really focused on Atlanta and Nashville. So Nashville kind of happened by accident, but I happened to get into a little niche in Nashville. So I spend a couple days a month up in Nashville, and the rest of it here in Atlanta.
Are there any industries that you most interested in meeting?
No, and I love that. I love the just the ADD nature of all the different industries. And, there's some fun to the fact that it doesn't matter. Like it's the same principles. If we can drive back to these core set of principles and tools, then we can solve, 80-90% of whatever comes our way. And
right.
The rest is I had a client, John, for over a year that I didn't understand what they did. And it became a source of pride for me that I was able to like sneak in and sneak out every session day without them knowing that I had no idea what they did.
I really
the reality is it was super complex, and it didn't matter, because running a business is running a business, and every business wants to think they're unique, and they are, but that uniqueness sits on top of the principles, the fundamentals, and the basic
communication, goal setting, team development, team structure, financial measurements, time management.
Yeah. It's all the basics that we all just need to, spend time on, and make sure that we elevate ourselves outside of the day-to-day to be strategic for a minute.
Yeah. I love that question when people say, well, who are the people you work with? What types of businesses you work with? Because they expect that it's one silo. And some coaches do work very well in that silo, and they do very, very well and can really leverage that and do great things. But at the same time, it's fun to go from meeting to meeting to meeting, where all the business types are different. End consumer, B2B, construction, it's so rewarding there for sure.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So do you have a team, or are you solo?
I have a team that supports me. So I have a wonderful woman who takes care of my calendar and a lot of my correspondence, a lot of my prep work. And then I've got another lady that helps me curate and articulate my thoughts.
We all need that.
I have a email that I send out every day for leaders. It's super short, like less than 1 minute, but it's a reminder of the things that we should be thinking about or doing to run our business. And so I'm able to articulate the thought to her, and she can capture it in words that make sense to other people, which is not my skill. So she's a great partner to have. That's at the261.com, because there's 261 work days in a business year. Good. So the261.com. And then, I try to participate in the conversations on LinkedIn with other CEOs and entrepreneurs, and take some of the bits and pieces that I've either learned or am processing right now, and share those with others. Okay.
So the 261.com, that's how people can find you.
Yeah, that's a great way. And that'll link over to my practice, or just hit me up on LinkedIn as well.
Well, and it's good that you have something like that. So we talked about trust earlier. I think you touched on it. You got to trust that person to speak on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
So if it's your acronym, your CAR, right?
Yeah.
You have to be clear to her, and she's got the autonomy to do it. And that's what we have to learn as business owners, and as we teach business owners, is to trust those things.
For sure.
To allow people to do those things on your behalf. So excellent. Well, again, I don't have too much to dig into, but I think it was a good opportunity for people to learn what you do and learn about what we do, I guess.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.